Hey everybody, it's Jeff with Nintendo-Games Now, and I'm here to talk a little bit about something that broke on the internet earlier today, and that was the apparent discovery of a SNES-CD, or Nintendo PlayStation as it's also known. Now, for those of you who maybe weren't alive then or are not familiar with what happened, Nintendo was in development of a CD-ROM add-on for the Super Nintendo back in the 90s, and they had partnered with Sony to help develop that. And the add-on, of course, would be similar to the Sega CD, which was for the Genesis, and it was designed to go underneath the Super Nintendo. It had an extension port on the bottom of the Super Nintendo, and they would stack on top of one another. And of course, the CD-ROM would play the CD format, which Nintendo would not use the disc format until the GameCube in 2001. But basically, to give a brief synopsis of what happened, during their agreement, Hiroshi Yamauchi, the then president of Nintendo, discovered that Sony was going to maintain most of the control of the games from the system, and thus also the profits from the sales of that. And he was not happy about that. And so he secretly canceled Nintendo's plans with Sony, and he sent some employees to go talk to Philips, who was one of Sony's rivals, to negotiate a deal to have them produce the add-on. Of course, as we know, that never came to be because the Super Nintendo add-on does not exist, at least not in commercial form. And what Philips wound up doing was the CDI, and as a result of that, they got use of the properties of Nintendo, being Mario and Zelda. They had 3 Zelda games and 1 Mario game, I believe, if I remember correctly. And of course, Sony used what they learned from Nintendo and working on the Nintendo PlayStation, or SNES-CD, and developed the original PlayStation, or PlayStation 1 if you prefer. And that is pretty much what happened. So what was posted online today was pictures, as well as a video that I'll link to in the description, that show what appears to be a prototype for the Nintendo PlayStation. And basically, it looks a lot like one of the images that was shown in magazines a few years back, and it looks like a combined CD-ROM drive and with a Super Nintendo cartridge slot on top, basically. And you'll see that in the pictures that I insert into the video here. Now, the only things that make me think it could be fake are the port on the back, which you can see, which says NEXT, next. What is that? Is that an extension port? Is that for an external memory card reader, maybe? Is it some sort of other video output? Some people have speculated online that it looks like an upside-down HDMI port. Of course, the HDMI standard was not developed until the early 2000s, so that would be impossible if this was, supposed to be a Super Nintendo add-on, or the Nintendo PlayStation, which was developed in the early to mid-90s. Unless they were really cutting edge and had their own version of HDMI that Sony was secretly working on. Now, so that's one thing that could possibly make it fake. Now, my opinion is that it's probably just maybe a serial port type of thing, or another type of video output that's not HDMI. And another thing people pointed out was the discoloration on the console. Because if you look at the picture, you can see that the top half is the standard gray color, and then the bottom half has the kind of yellowish tint to it, which is a known issue with the plastic that was used in the Super Nintendo era because of the flame-resistant material that was used in the plastic. And it would cause yellowing like this on the outside of the console because of the exposure to oxygen and UV light. And you see the same thing with some of the old computers, like old Macintosh computers, for example. Now, the reason why I don't think the discoloration is an issue is because if you look at old Super Nintendos that were commercially released that are, proven to be legitimate consoles, they have some of the same issues where the whole thing does not discolor. Sometimes the whole thing does discolor, but sometimes only parts of it. The one I have sitting here right next to me has the whole system discolored except for the bottom and the cartridge slot. So that just goes to show you that just because it's not fully discolored does not mean that it's not legitimate. Now, whether it is or not, I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see if he can find a power cord that will work with it and boot it up and see if that, that proves to be whether it's real or fake. Because he said, the guy that posted the pictures and videos said that he doesn't have a power cord for it for some reason. Apparently, the guy that posted about this, his dad worked at a company that one of the executives at Sony's video game division during the development of PlayStation was working at later on after he left Sony. And that company closed down, and I guess the executive had this prototype sitting around in his office or something. And it was going to be thrown out, and this guy's dad saved it, according to what the story was posted. Now, whether any of that is legitimate or not, I don't know. My personal opinion is I think it's probably real, but like I said, until we actually see it booted up in video format, it's hard to say. Some of the other things people have posted about are the fact that it doesn't say Nintendo anywhere on it, except for on the back of the controller. And the reason for that is because this is not the Super Nintendo add-on version. This is the combined console version that would play the Super Nintendo cartridges and the Super Nintendo CD format, which is known that Sony was working on both. They were working on that as well as the add-on version that would attach directly to the Super Nintendo. And chances are this would have taken the kind of a placeholder gap between the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo 64, kind of like the 32X was meant to do for the Genesis on with that in the Saturn. But since it never was commercially released, they went ahead and did the Nintendo 64, and Sony, of course, did the PlayStation, the original PlayStation, or PS1 if you prefer. So it's pretty interesting, I think, and it will be cool to see if it's legitimate or not. It's really hard to say. I'm just looking at the pictures, and I'm going to post a link to the article on Polygon, which is where I found a bunch of pictures in the video that I'm going to link to as well. And you can see some of the other pictures I posted in this video here as well. But yeah, I don't really know what to make of it. It's definitely different. Another thing I noticed people posting about was the fact that it has S-video on it, which the original PlayStation did not have that in the US. It had it in the launch model in Japan, but not in the US. So some people were saying, well, why does it have that on there when the PlayStation didn't have it? But then other people pointed out that the Japanese model did have it. So I guess we'll have to wait and see over the next 2 days and see if anyone comes forward to admit it was a fake, or if he finds the power cord and records some footage off of it. Because it did come with a demo card as well. That's the cartridge that you'll see in the pictures, and the Japanese on it, people have translated it that it says like for demo use or something like that. And basically, I guess it was I mean, who knows? It could be a demo game on there. It could be just a technical thing for development. Who knows? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Well, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that and give you my thoughts on it. Like I said, it's pretty cool. I mean, it is considered by a lot of people that were gamers back in the early to mid '90s to be one of the holy grails of gaming that was thought to not exist, because Nintendo and Sony had ordered all of the known prototypes to be destroyed, as far as we knew. Yet here we supposedly have one that survived. And if this is legitimate and it's a real prototype and not a fake, I could easily see this going for over $10,000, just on my personal estimation, because maybe even over $100,000. Because it's the only known prototype to exist if it is real. And just look at games like stadium events and the Nintendo World Championships on the NES. Those sell for thousands of dollars on eBay every time they're listed. So, guess we'll just have to wait and see. So thanks for tuning in and thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time at Nintendo Games Now.
Hi, this is Jeff from Nintendo Games Now. Thanks for watching our video. If you liked it, feel free to click the like button or subscribe to our channel for more great videos like this one. And we also welcome any feedback you might have in the comments section that you can find right below this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time at Nintendo Games Now.